Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring a fascinating and honestly kind of profound difference that trips up almost every single one of us. We're talking about the massive gap between simply acquiring information and truly mastering our own minds. I mean, we live in an era where we can access the world's greatest ideas, philosophies, and psychological tricks with just a couple taps on a screen. But as we're going to see, gathering all that data doesn't necessarily protect us from our own emotional storms. So, we are going to unpack some incredibly insightful material today that will completely reframe how you look at your internal struggles. We're actually starting things off with a highly relatable dilemma from a guy in his 20s named Kotatsu. He reached out to a prominent Buddhist teacher with a frustration that honestly perfectly captures the modern human condition. He wrote, "I know I shouldn't be jealous, but the jealousy won't disappear." He goes on to explain that, he reads the great books, he watches the insightful videos, and he knows exactly what the right thing to do is logically. But when the sadness hits or when the anger flares up, he feels the exact opposite emotionally. He says it's like his thoughts and his emotions are completely reversed, and he just feels like words and logic aren't enough to change him anymore. And wow, doesn't that just brilliantly illustrate the internal war we all face? It's like a tug of war. Your logical brain might calmly tell you, hey, time heals all wounds, or losing your temper right now isn't going to fix anything. But your emotional reality, it literally does not care. The sadness doesn't just magically fade because logic demands it. The jealousy sticks around. The anger completely takes over. Kotatsu's realization is something we all discover eventually. Knowing the truth in your head is absolutely no match for the raw, overwhelming power of what you actually feel in your body. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that if you have ever felt this exact same frustration, you are definitely not alone. And more importantly, you need to know that this isn't some modern personal failure of yours. This is a fundamental human problem. It's been around throughout all of recorded history. If we look back, ancient history reveals that this exact struggle, dealing with grief, jealousy, pride, uncontrollable anger, was the exact same problem people were trying to solve in ancient India nearly 2,600 years ago. It is literally the core dilemma that launched some of the world's most enduring philosophies. Just consider the historical journey of the Buddha. He's arguably the most famous master of the mind in all of history, right? Well, at age 29, he walked away from a life of absolute royal comfort, leaving his whole world behind just to solve this exact problem of human emotional suffering. And it wasn't a quick fix. From age 29 to 35, he endured severe, grueling asceticism. I mean, he tried everything. He pushed himself to the absolute physical and mental brink, and he failed repeatedly to conquer his own mind. It took years before he finally sat under the Bodhi tree and achieved his breakthrough. Think about that for a second. Even the historical master of the mind took years of intense, agonizing struggle to figure this out. And this brings us to a really dangerous modern paradox. Back in the Buddha's time, discovering these truths required giving up your entire life. But today, we have 3-minute videos promising to instantly fix our anxiety. We've got Keep, incredibly accessible books that hand us 5 easy steps to manage our anger. And because information is so cheap and convenient right now, we fall headfirst into a massive psychological trap. We literally get frustrated if a video on overcoming anxiety takes more than 2 seconds to buffer. We mistakenly believe that because the information is fast and easy to consume, the mental mastery it describes should also be fast and easy to achieve. We're expecting instant results for a problem that took ancient masters decades to solve. To really put this into perspective, let's think about this through the lens of martial arts. The illusion is thinking that watching a professional fighter break down a high kick online means you suddenly know how to fight. But the reality? Knowing the mechanics of a kick does absolutely nothing for you if you haven't spent months stretching, sweating, and training daily in a dojo. And it's the exact same thing for our minds. Reading an anger management book gives you the theory, but that theory completely evaporates the second someone insults you or cuts you off in traffic. True mastery is the actual, in-the-moment control of a furious temper. Knowing how to throw a punch from a video absolutely does not mean you can throw one in a ring. So how do we bridge this massive gap between knowing and doing? Well, we can look to an ancient Pali concept found in early Buddhist texts, sikha. Now, it's often translated simply as learning, but actually, scratch that. Sikha carries a much heavier, way more demanding meaning than just reading a book. It means to learn, train, and discipline the self through relentless, persistent repetition. It is the absolute polar opposite of a quick fix. Sikha is a reminder that true change, especially when we're talking about the deep-seated emotional reactions of our minds, only comes from dedicated, lifelong training. You can't just read about it. You literally have to drill it. There's this really wonderful anecdote from a martial arts instructor that I think captures this whole idea perfectly.
When new students walk into the dojo, they almost always ask, "Sensei, how do I get a black belt?" And the instructor's answer is always the exact same: don't quit until you get it. It sounds simple, almost too simple, right? But it's profound. If you genuinely want to overcome a deep sadness or a reactive anger or this persistent jealousy we've been talking about, you have to treat it like earning a black belt. You simply refuse to quit training your mind until the emotional wound actually heals. There's no secret shortcut. The only way forward is the refusal to give up the practice.
If we look at traditional martial arts, it relies on the concept of Shingi Tai, which translates to mind, technique, and body. Understanding this hierarchy is a real game changer because it reveals exactly why mastering the mind is the absolute hardest discipline of them all. Think about it. Training the body is the easiest because it's highly visible. You lift weights, your muscles grow, you see it in the mirror. Technique is medium difficulty. You can practice a golf swing, record yourself on your phone, and fix your visible action. But the mind? The mind is the absolute hardest discipline precisely because it is completely invisible and intangible. You can't wrap a tape measure around your patience. You can't record your emotional resilience on a camera to see how you're doing. And because the mind is completely invisible, the training has to happen internally in real time. So here is the actionable daily prescription for that mental training. First off, you must notice the emotion the exact second it happens. I'm talking about literally saying to yourself in your head, anger has arisen. Secondly, you have to acknowledge it without beating yourself up. Everyone gets sad, everyone gets angry. That's just part of being a human being. But the final, and honestly, most crucial practice is this. You must extinguish that tiny spark immediately before it ever has the chance to grow into a roaring fire that consumes all of your logic. And here is exactly why that final practice is so absolutely critical. Failing to catch that spark is genuinely dangerous. When an emotion explodes, the severe shock of that intense feeling literally carves deep, painful pathways into your mind. It's like a groove in a record. The more you let the explosion happen, the deeper that groove becomes, and the harder it is to stop it the next time around. So your daily practice of Sika is to stop the spark before the groove gets carved. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative final thought. Just think about society's priorities for a minute. We spend decades in school. We spend vast amounts of money, time, and energy studying for exams, learning trades, and building careers, mostly just so we can survive, eat, and keep a roof over our heads. We train relentlessly to make a living, but how much time do we actually dedicate to training the invisible terrain of our own minds? Because the mind is what you have to live with every single second until you die. So I challenge you to take these insights, stop expecting the quick fix, and start dedicating the time and discipline required to become the true master of your own invisible mind. Keep training, and I'll see you in the next explainer.